Good afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center with a tornado warning for parts of most of Turner County here in south central Georgia until 2 o'clock, folks. I need to go ahead and get folks into shelter as of a possible tornado near Ashburn and Interstate 75. At about 1:33, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located over Ashburn, moving northeast at about 25 miles an hour. So a possible tornado. Go ahead and get as many walls between you and the outside as possible here in Turner County. We've seen this rotation evolve and intensify rather quickly here, so need to go ahead and get into shelter. We'll go ahead and pull up our radar mode with a little hook on this storm here. Things have really started to develop as we have this developing tornado, or at least developing potential tornado here, as we have some lightning as well showing up. We have that hook on the storm. We have the rotation lining up. So we need to go ahead and get folks in shelter. Maybe some inflow, maybe some debris showing up here as well. I would lean toward inflow here at this point because of the shape of this storm, but I can't ride a tornado. We had an EF0 tornado yesterday in Bainbridge. That information is confirmed, and we didn't have a warning on that storm. This storm has tighter rotation than that one. We have a warning. Doesn't mean it's actually on the ground, a tornado, but it could be. So we want to go ahead and get as many folks in the shelter as possible right now here into Turner County, Georgia. A possible tornado developing here on New Year's Eve, really, as the Weather Service is talking about storms are moving along in north of US 82 that are getting up that way are encountering a better sheared environment, and storms are showing the potential to rotate, so they're going to have to continue to monitor storms closely for additional warnings. So a tornado warning in Turner County right now. Let me go ahead and go to the overview of the area if you're kind of just wondering what's going on this afternoon. We're going to go ahead and zoom on out right now and see you guys where this is. Not a threat in north central Florida, northeast Florida, but we cover there in Turner County. We cover 62 counties to be precise, and that's one of them, as the strong rotation with the storm, according to the Weather Service, is very near Ashburn, as a possible tornado is moving near US 41 at this time. It's approaching Interstate 75 around exit 84 in the rest area, so a tornado warning continues here, so we need to go ahead and get folks into shelter now. You see a tornado warning in play, you want to know what to do. So let me go ahead and pop up our tornado safety tips now. Here's the information. Seek shelter inside that sturdy building. Get as many walls between you and the outside as possible. And to protect yourself from flying debris, put on a bicycle helmet. So again, a tornado warning here in play until 2 o'clock, Turner County, Georgia. Possible tornado on the ground here near Ashburn. It's evolved very quickly. We're watching the storm in far southwestern Georgia earlier on Donaldsonville. For a while, it was still on some rotation, but it's not quite enough for a tornado warning. But this storm, the rotation ramped up very quickly. We have a tornado warning in play here in south central Georgia. You see quite a bit of lightning, which sometimes is an indicator or a precursor to a possible tornado in this scenario. So a tornado warning, Turner County, possible tornado around Ashburn here. The rotation not showing up as much on rotation tracker. We're not exactly at the best spot on the radar, but the possible tornado is located over Ashburn, moving northeast at 25 miles an hour. So areas like Rebecca also under this warning. The community of Rebecca here in Turner County. I know we don't cover Crisp County, if you guys are wondering in terms of our coverage zone, as you just saw that polygon update on the screen. But again, a tornado warning here in play. Radar indicated rotation prompting this. And with that lighting, we're seeing maybe an indication of this kind of trying to intensify a little bit with maybe a funnel reaching the surface. Not out of the question here. You see our significant tornado parameter. You see here as we go ahead and go to our energy, those are kind of aligning enough here as the energy is really apparent and abundant here this afternoon as we kind of broaden that viewpoint. We'll go ahead and switch on over toward the temperatures. You see 83 in Fitzgerald, kind of telling that story here this afternoon as we go ahead now and bounce back on over to our other computer. Again, a possible tornado around Ashburn. You see that rotation here off the Robins Air Force Base radar. That's the closest one, so we're looking about 5,500 feet up. But the tornado warning storm appears to be crossing 75, moving into eastern Turner County here, according to Kelly Gotzi there with the National Weather Service in Tallahassee. So it could be something here that could just be inflow as well, but That looked like it could be something they're trying to emerge in terms of some type of debris, but it's unknown at this point. So, moving right around Ashburn, we got to get folks into shelter here. Maybe some smaller hail with this cell to the north of the tornado as well. But just again, move to that interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy building. Here as we're looking toward Ashburn in this polygon. We have some other areas that are in this, not necessarily under a threat, depending on where you are, like Dakota, you're not really under the threat at this point, but you're still under the warning. We also have the Turner County Airport. We have Rebecca, as I mentioned here, Sycamore's in this, so you kind of get the idea of what we're talking. Again, this is in our far northern coverage area, but we have to be on here because there is a imminent threat to life, potentially, and property for sure, as we're looking toward this area. So here's our coverage area, of course, Turner County there as we're looking on our far northern fringes, but we respect all 62 counties here, providing that continuous tornado warning coverage here as necessary. And with what we saw around Bainbridge yesterday, there definitely could be a tornado reaching the surface here in Turner County. Again, we don't talk about you guys all that much, honestly, because you are on our fringes, but we incorporate you guys as needed here in our coverage. So, again, a possible tornado on Ashburn right now on Interstate 75. I know some of you with travel plans might happen to be up this way right now, and you're watching me, and I just got to be really careful here. Just crossed the interstate. It seems that we have other storms, though, that could rotate. Weather Service was talking about this. There is with weaker and broader rotation. I know Worth County there, storm near Sylvester, we're going to keep our eyes on. We're looking further up on the radar as we get down here, but we have some other areas to watch as well. But around Ashburn and Turner County, a possible tornado is occurring right now. As we're looking at correlation coefficient, we see a little bit of green there east of where it says Turner on this map. That could be just inflow, but it could also be, and that's inflow for sure there. But as we were looking a moment ago, it was a little more murky, but at this point, it looks more like inflow here for sure because we're not aligned with the actual rotational area, the rotational couplet here, where we have the reds and greens coming together here as we're looking in towards South Georgia, in towards South Central Georgia to be precise. So we're going to gather more details now that the circulation starting to move past Ashburn here in Turner County. I'll be back here in just a couple minutes with more details, but still be in shelter if you're east and northeast of Ashburn right now, as with a possible tornado on the ground. Back here in the Weather Center now, continuing that coverage. We do have that tornado warning for parts of Turner County continuing till 2 o'clock. I'm seeing information in the chat that somebody that lives there about a mile west of 75 and exit 82 doesn't have anything to report right now, so that's a little good sign, but you just never know because a tornado can be so isolated in the damage that it causes. Something might have occurred there just a little away from the report. But again, a possible tornado east of 75 here in south central Georgia right now. And I know we were just looking at some different things on our GR Earth computer. Let me go ahead and say this to you guys as I'm on talking to you. You do have these areas here that we're watching. I know out of our area we have a severe thunderstorm warning that's had a tornado possible tag with it and still does actually up toward areas there around McRae, Georgia, possible severe thunderstorm in that vicinity. But again, the area of concern in our market area, the tornado warning, where we always break in. We have tornado warning scenarios. Still seek shelter inside that sturdy building here as the rotation could be northeast of Ashburn right now here in parts of Turner County. As we zoom in a little bit closer, you also see as I zoom out further now, and we just get an update, the tornado still maybe not too far from Ashburn, moving northeast at about 25 miles an hour. But you see our slight risk area to the north, but this right there on the edge of that, here in the marginal risk, a tornado warning in Turner County right now, east of 75. We want to go ahead and get folks into shelter as we've seen some rotation. It doesn't show up a lot on net rotation tracker, but still a tornado could be reaching the surface here in parts of the area as we watch area of lightning intensity trend emerge here west of Albany, at least an area that's showing a lightning strike east of Leary. We'll watch to see if that intensifies. An area south of Camilla there, area there southeast of Donaldsonville. We weren't seeing a lot on storm relative velocity from the other radar site, but I'll go ahead and switch radar sites because we want to keep an eye on some of those other storms because those could be impacting some other communities later on. But let me go ahead now and broaden this back out here. You can see Macon. I know some of our models are way in and around that area. Some of the higher parameters up there, you see the temperature contrast, but we also just, as I'm on here, since we're kind of in a situation where we're not doing a lot of normal updates, I want to talk about what's going to happen in the next few days because this is not the end of the threat here, folks. Really, this is just one of the first threats that's going to emerge here in terms of what could happen this weekend. We're talking about what's happening now, a threat lingering maybe even in the evening here for parts of our South Georgia zones. Big Bend not out of the question either, but really watching South Georgia in our area and then Central Georgia even more so outside of our area. There's a little more concern there with some parameters. But then as we look toward tomorrow, that threat's more up toward areas there in Arkansas, that general zone, maybe later on in the timeline. But as we get here on to your Saturday, we're really concerned because there are some parameters that could come together there. A slight risk for now, but that could end up being something a little bit higher on the scale as we're looking toward areas around Atlanta and Birmingham, and then Sunday toward our area, as I've talked about for days here, could have a tornado watch or multiple tornado watches in place. So make sure you stay up to date. What we're seeing right now is just kind of an early precursor to maybe a bigger event for our area towards Sunday. So just stay weather aware. Don't tune out this weekend. This is just kind of a precursor. But we're watching here on New Year's Eve a possible tornado east of Ashburn, Georgia right now. We're still watching this rotation. It's actually showing on the Fort Rucker radar as rotation as well, meaning this is kind of going up there higher as well as maybe closer to the surface, meaning more well put together circulation possibly, as we're seeing that shear marker show up all the way from the Fort Rucker radar where we're looking 12,000 feet up. So you can definitely see the rotation on that from there, but even some wind enhancement in Worth County, some weak rotation west of Albany, but that can intensify here. I know we had even weaker rotation. Honestly, a very weak rotation on the storm near Bainbridge yesterday ended up being a tornado producer with winds to 80 miles an hour. It was kind of low topped, so it's kind of harder to see within the radar. But these storms here, some of these are higher topped, it seems, at least, depending on how we're looking at these. We're looking for Fort Rucker right now, but these have a little bit taller heights per se. So again, watching a possible tornado there east of areas there around Ashburn. Let me go ahead and pull up our Moody Air Force Base radar, and we'll get that situated for you guys here in just a moment. But again, if you're watching from north central Florida, we're not really even seeing much of a rain chance here. Excuse me. Not seeing much of a rain chance here today, so that's good news. But we just have to be kind of cognizant of what could happen as we look ahead later on. You see the thunderstorm risk does technically include Stark here. That's the lightest green. The darker green, the marginal risk where we have that tornado warning. I posted a little bit earlier on that we need to just kind of pay attention here, folks, because you just never know. I just need to stay tuned for updates, and we end up getting a tornado warning probably gone for one of our far northernmost counties there. The rotation of the storm in Turner County is weakening, but they're going to keep the tornado running till 2 p.m. But unless they see the rotation increase, they're unlikely to extend the warning eastward. They'll continue to monitor it. But in terms of perspective on where this is here, we're talking about, I know, Ben Hill and Irwin in our area downstream, maybe Wilcox as well, but that's outside of our viewing circle. So this for some perspective on that. But we'll watch toward Fitzgerald and areas to the north here in our area to see if something emerges in terms of rotation. They get a little tighter once again. I know I'm switching between radars here in the Weather Center, going between a lot of our different tools here this afternoon to try to keep you, your friends, and your family safe, as there's now a significant weather advisory for this storm here. As we get west to Albany, you see a little more lightning maybe trying to gather now. Strong thunderstorm will be impacting areas around, looks like Albany here, maybe even Leesburg as well after about 2:45. Weather Service in Jacksonville talking about the overall setup here in that they're monitoring storms north and west of, it looks like, southeast Georgia counties overall, but a strong thunderstorm may skim Coffee County here in our viewing area, and can't rule out maybe Jeff Davis and Appling here later on. So they're going to expire the tornado warning, it looks like, now for Turner County. So that's now off the screen, so that's good news. So we're going to go ahead and start to wrap this up here pretty soon here in this situation. Gonna have to wrap this up here pretty soon, probably, as we don't want to just stay on here when there's not a warning. But let me go ahead and go to the overview here. Go to the overview of the situation. You can see here, I'm not seeing too much rotation right now. That area east of Ashburn, there, south of Rebecca, a lot brighter looking on the Moody radar site. So that's good news. Let's go to the Robbins site now, the Robbins Air Force site. I know we have a storm outside of our area there in Willard County, and then in Wilcox County outside of our area, some rotation, and then some rotation here east of Ashburn and south of Rebecca, but that's not tight enough. We're not seeing the brighter reds and brighter greens like we saw earlier here. You see how bright they were here as we go back to 138, 134. They're really bright there. You see that gate to gate here showing up as well. We had winds here gate to gate over about 50, 60 miles an hour. So kind of telling that story, and that maybe we had a lower end type tornado or some severe winds reaching the surface. As there is a significant weather advisory being reissued for this area, but the tornado warning no longer in play. As you see, that base velocity is just going between some of our different modes here in the Doppler, though. As we do have our logo red, that's for Sunday's threat here, really. I know we have had some different threats here, but we just want to be really careful on what could happen as the week kind of goes on here into that holiday weekend. Folks are tuning out. We can't have you tuning out on Sunday, especially for our area. We gotta be cognizant of what could happen. Some local counties could be under a tornado watch here on 1-2. So just want to be really kind of watching what could take place. I'll go ahead and pull up another one of our tornado safety tips graphics just to kind of reiterate this point here. The threat maybe not quite as bad as it could be to the north, but still we gotta be cognizant because people will be tuning out. And even on 1/1 New Year's Day around Atlanta, Birmingham, we could have dangerous, severe weather setting up. So travel plans, unfortunately, could be hindered by these storms here as we look ahead as these unseasonably, this record warm temperatures here in play, in some cases causing problems here as we're looking at December 30th. 2021. I mean, these temperatures are a little cooler in some areas here, like Lake City, for instance, but that's not the story here. In that we have this really warm temperatures overall and some other parameters emphasizing and kind of encouraging the severe weather threats. So again, the energy values are really high for this time of year, and this time of year you don't necessarily get these energy values this high, but we have these warm temperatures, we have the moist air, and we have enough rotation here as well, because a lot of times you get a high shear, high wind energy type scenario here where you have the rotational parameter type, you don't have a lot of energy, but in this situation we have a lot of energy and we're getting at least a little bit of rotational parameters more. What you see here as we're switching seasons, even probably from spring to summer, or I mean something like maybe what you would see here in May, kind of reminiscent of that. So kind of interesting to see. Nonetheless, here in the month of December, this is really an unusual scenario, but we still got to watch here as we're going to go and wrap the coverage for now. That tornado warning expired. We have some other storms to watch. Still some gusty winds possible, but you see that slight risk to the north here as we're looking up toward Macon. Those areas, and even our viewing circle here, even though it didn't take a slight risk for a tornado warning, slight risk here up toward Quitman County, up toward Cuthbert there, Dawson as well, Leesburg, you're into this, so just be careful here. Could get some type of watch up in that region, that's possible, but already had a tornado warning without that for areas there in Turner County, Georgia this afternoon, parts of Turner County under that. So just gotta be kind of paying attention here, staying weather aware as this moves into toward Ben Hill County here. Over the next little bit, you see maybe parts of Irwin as well, but Ben Hill and then even Atterbury area toward Wilcox there and Telfair counties there in central Georgia. So we'll keep watching things. Just stay tuned. We have some other candidates here for some type of warning. So we'll be here as needed and as necessary. But otherwise, thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud.